Hey everybody, Matt from Prowler here with an exciting announcement, 5.4 release. The metaphorical release train is billowing steam, is picking up speed. This is the fourth major release of the new V5, which announced a UI, API, an entire solution rather than kind of a one-time scan situation with scheduled scans. And yeah, we're already up to kind of sub-release 4. We promise that our engineers are being fed, watered, and get enough sleep. They're mainly based in Spain, so I guess we'll call that a siesta. But without further ado, if you want to, you can read all of the information about V4 directly on our blog at prowler.com. But if you prefer to follow along and see the differences in this release and get your release updates in more video form, then this is the place for you. Right, let's dive in. Okay, so as I said, the release notes are in releases, and we will just go through and have a play. So the main difference you're going to notice is a load of UI improvements. So if you are using the UI either via cloud.prowler.com, which is a hosted version, which is absolutely the quickest way to get started with Prowler V5, go to cloud.prowler.com, click sign up. It's free, no credit card needed, and you can kind of get started there. But if you are running Prowler locally as well, probably time to upgrade for these UI changes. So if we jump straight into cloud.prowler.com here, you will see one of my favorite new additions, which probably means nothing to anyone else, but jumping between environments for my job all day. We now actually show the version down in the bottom of the UI dashboard screen. So you can see that if you are already a cloud user and you log back in, you will already have the new version running with all your existing data there, which is awesome. This is how it would load up. I've been playing around and you can see we can hide and expand the sidebar. We have much nicer sections now. It's a much tidier layout. So that's kind of the big first thing you will notice. There's a lot more little UI tweaks which make everything so much easier though. So for example, if we go into configuration and scan jobs, you can see in my test environment here we have a smorgasbord of all the different UI elements: completed, failed, scheduled. But if we manually run a scan, say an AWS scan, and say manual 1, and schedule that, you can see that we now see it's executing with a status percentage rather than having to kind of click into that job and find out what's going on. So nice little UI update there just to make it a lot more easy to see what's going on in real time. Scan ID is now under the scan details. This is especially useful if you're planning to extend your use of Prowler with the API and everything. Obviously the scan IDs that you can pull findings from, you can do extra things with your own pipeline. You can do extra things with your own pipeline, etc. And if you want to have that information, sometimes you want the UI to kind of show you the same UUIDs and things like that. So if we kind of go into a scan, for example, browse all findings, scan ID, you can kind of filter by scan ID there, which is really useful. Scan ID also shows under individual scan details. So if we go into a scan job, we pick one that completed, see findings. There we go. The scan ID is already filtered and you can see how we're filtering on that. And if you want to copy and paste it, it's also right there in the top UI, which is useful. What else do we have? Let's have a look. Prowler version number, we've already covered that. The sidebar re-renders for different functionality and features and things. Just a little like bug fixes and things like that. When a role or a user is deleted, things behave much nicer. We force a page refresh and things like that. So yeah, little bugs that have been reported, they're kind of fixed from the UI side. So yeah, new UI, much nicer. And I actually have some details of the performance changes that have been, you'll notice them more through the UI, but they're actually performance changes for the API. and it's like a 10x improvement in pulling findings from large scan results. So you will notice the load times with certainly like showing all findings and filtering on all findings will be a lot quicker as well, which is nice. So moving on to the API. So the API is kind of cool because, well, the API is cool because we offer everything you can get to in the UI via a fully open API. And the way, as I said, we've optimized the findings endpoint, but the API is cool because it lets you know kind of what things are coming in the UI, because the API additions to support those UI functionalities will probably go into the API a release or so before the UI changes. So right here, for example, we now support social login integration with GitHub and Google. So, you know, sign into Prowler Cloud or your self-hosted Prowler with your GitHub account or your Google account. It's in the API already, and you see it will be available via Prowler app in the next version. So amazing. This is super exciting to me as well, because with more and more cloud providers wanting users to kind of log in with OAuth 2 and kind of app redirects rather than have static tokens for kind of third-party security products such as Prowler, I don't see why we wouldn't then be able to use that to automatically go and, you know, find and add your Google Cloud accounts automatically as part of your login in future. If that sounds interesting, go and put it on our public roadmap. The great thing about everything being open source, the API being open, as I will show you in a minute, is there's nothing to hide, there's no code to hide. So we have a public roadmap. It shows you what we are thinking of doing, but it also allows anyone in public to upvote, add comments, add use cases. So if you're interested, if there's something you desperately need in Prowler, or there's, you know, you want to kind of add a +1 or a thumbs up to existing roadmap items, please do. Please go and check out roadmap.prowler.com. Okay, back to the goodies. API and scan report system. This is cool. So you've always been able to do this from the CLI. It was a big request for people dealing with compliance when we released the kind of, you know, hosted capabilities in V5 with the UI and the API. How do I get to the scan reports? How do I get to the files that I used to be able to dump out of the Prowler CLI, such as the CSV and HTML formats? Well, there's now an API endpoint for it, which is awesome. So if we go and look at our API docs, and the way to do that if you're in Prowler Cloud or the UI, you can literally just go help and support, and there's a link to the API reference right there. And while you can use the little browser here to kick off API requests, and it is a functional open API browser that you can use, I much prefer the user experience by hitting download on the open API specification and importing that into Postman. And once it's imported into Postman, yeah, I prefer using Postman, personal preference, but as you can see, I've got the 5.4 version of the Prowler API open here, and you can see under scans, under ID, we now have a new download zip report endpoint. I've already gone and hit the obtain a token endpoint, as you can see there, hopefully hiding my creds in most of the token. So when I run this, we actually get, as you can see, that's a zip file, but let's show you that properly rather than just, I mean, you can see the name of the files within the zip. There's a CSV there. We can obviously change the scan ID there if we wanted to get a different report. Let's go ahead and try doing that. I'm going to use the scan that we've just done. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? So let's go in, let's go to scans, see if that one has finished. Big account, so oh, let's have a look. Yeah, it's finished, cool. So let's hit see findings. Let's steal the scan ID from the UI, and let's automatically go and pull that report detail, and there you can see there's our zip file. If I wanted to do that properly, let's use this curl. You can see I've hidden my bearer token there again, environment variable, but let's go and get this new report here. API.prowler.com. API v1 scans / report. What have I done wrong there? Yes, helps if you start and end quotes properly, doesn't it? There we go. And then if we unzip, I've obviously outputted that to scan.zip. If we unzip scan.zip, and we can see there we have our CSV, our OSCF compliant JSON, which is super cool for integration with other tools and things, and our HTML file. And if we go to VS Code, where's output? There we go. We can see the files that you would usually get from the CLI, we can now request via the API, which is awesome. Yeah, so if you need to send those to people for compliance reasons, etc., etc., they're all still available. So big change, requested change by our community and users. So awesome to see that in and working already. Again, there will be an interface to it from the UI as of probably the next subversion. But for now, that's how you get it through the API. Then big changes in terms of backend Prowler. So CLI Prowler with the API on top of it, and then the UI. Things that are brand new are going to appear in the SDK and the CLI first. And 2 of those are Microsoft 365 support. So for SharePoint, we now have 4 new checks, which allow you to just make sure you are running best practices for turning on non-default security issues for Microsoft 365 with SharePoint specifically. And then there's also the Entra service, which is Microsoft 365's kind of zero trust like SSL VPN stuff. So if you're not familiar with zero trust, the idea that that service will know like whether I am at home on my Wi-Fi or whether I am in a coffee shop or whether I'm in an airport, and there may be policies to say, hey, anything tagged as super sensitive in SharePoint, don't allow viewing in a public place and things like that. So for that service and those using it, we have some extra enforcement options as well. So we've got a new check for the Entra service. We've updated compliance frameworks, so PCI DSS 4, AWS, PCI DSS 4, CIS 4.0, 27001 ISO 2022 for AWS. I know that was a big request. So all of those are there by default in compliance. So if you have matching data, you will be able to see those in the compliance tab. So let's see if we can find a 4.0. There we go, PCI 4.0, which is cool. There is a feature request in to make these click throughable, so you can click and kind of see the requirements and the passing requirements pulled out of the actual scan results. There you can do that via the CLI, so that is coming in the UI too. So watch out for another of these videos, probably fairly soon at the rate we're going, where I demonstrate that feature. And then finally, if you're like, ooh, I like that UI, I like the update, I like that, I'm a UI developer myself, and you want to get involved, we are actively hiring for a front-end engineer. So do check out prowler.com/careers if you're interested, or reach out to any of the Prowler team on our community Slack, which is goto.prowler.com/Slack. That'll get you in there. And also in there, you can ask questions, you can, talk to us about use cases. We're all in there. We're a reasonably friendly bunch, and it's a growing community, so please do come and say hi. Also, if these changes or Prowler itself benefits you, or you have an interesting, from the coalface, war story to tell about using Prowler, we would love to hear from you. We have a success story link running from the Prowler Love page. So if you go to prowler.com and you go to our kind of customer accolades, Prowler Love, there we go. And you can see from here, share your success story. We will absolutely trade you a bunch of swag delivered to your address for anything you want to submit here. But mainly, we'd just love to hear how you use Prowler, what it's doing for your company, any exciting things you've done with it, or findings you found with it, or, things you've saved the day with. So yeah, if you've got an interesting story to share, either fill that out or again, reach to us on Slack. And with that, that concludes our little roundup of Prowler 5.4.0. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.